Some public or prosperous people are not confident. They might be lacking in that deep knowing and feeling of self-value, which of course for anyone can be ultimately self-destructive and hurtful to others. Sometimes humans have to reach the abyss to find their character. My wish for each of you, particularly the students, is that you will not ever have to sink that low. That you are currently and will always live your lives respecting yourselves and others in our environments.
I would like to share with you 3 lessons, no 4, give me 4, that my mom taught me. The first, a woman will be known by the company she keeps. A second lesson from Mary Frances Lewis Betch, who was and always will be my shero. She said, in response to racism and sexism, my daughter, you're gonna have to be twice as good to get half as far. The third lesson that I carry with me always is this. She said, you know, if you're ever the first to do something, you must vow to never be the last. Work with others to make sure that you are first, but never last. And then the final lesson that my mom taught me that seems so appropriate tonight is this. She said, education is really about coming to understand the world better. But you will not be an educated person unless you also come to understand your responsibility to help to make the world better. When it comes to issues of education and increasing our understanding, repetition is good for the soul. I ask that each of you would get in touch with your multiple identities. And once you do, do not allow anyone to ever call you in singular terms. I urge you to honestly examine your own power and privilege, because when you do so, you open the door to not only understanding your power and privilege, but learning to use it in positive ways.
You have got to follow your passion.
But to change the world, we have to combine belief with action.
I think life for me has shown me the importance of really having faith in what you can accomplish and never limiting yourself. I think maybe early in my life, I may have set my sights relatively low. That's not to say that they weren't already at a good place, but there's always room for improvement. And so through the Rhodes Scholarship, through winning on The Apprentice, through all of what I've done at BCT Partners, it just continues to reinforce for me the fact that there's always greater capacity of what we can accomplish. And I tell that to young people all the time. Is never set your sights too low, because you can often be the one that limits yourself in terms of what you can accomplish.
Any advice you can give to them in a nutshell if they have a dream, or if they want, you know, say they're working 9 to 5 and they just can't break that cycle, you know?
I would say to them, think about ways that you can get into entrepreneurship, taking some very small steps that can lead to larger steps, but you don't have to have a lot of money to do it, so start now. So pick a strategy, do something for yourself to propel your career. Pick something you're going to do also that's going to help somebody else.
What can we do as citizens?
Well, I think it's very simple. I think you look in your community of where you can volunteer your time. There's always going to be a young person, a senior citizen, an adult, a parent who could benefit from exposure, training, and if you're on the side of the information haves, then find someone in your neighborhood that's on the side of the have-nots and lend a helping hand.
The typical entrepreneur thinking, I got to figure out how to do it on my own, when the truth is, look at every success story, there's always a team behind the story. I mean, Oprah had a guy named Jeff Jacobs, which people don't know. You look at
Everybody thinks it's Oprah.
Everybody thinks it's Oprah,
by
exactly.
herself.
Bill Gates had Paul Allen. Steve Jobs had Steve Wozniak. I mean, you go down the line, there's always an and to the name that we all know and love. And so I think the mistake we make is thinking that I've got to figure it out on my own, kind of pick myself up by my bootstraps, when the team is the better metaphor for a business. About 13% of high-growth businesses are started with $1,000 or less.
Really?
Exactly. So the myth that I explode in the book, among other myths, is that you don't have to have a lot of money to start a company. If you look at the tradition of how most companies are started, about 80% with the dollars of the founders. Now, that means we had nothing. So
Right.
from there, you have to look at, well, how much does it take to get a company off the ground? And the numbers suggest that it's not that much, actually, that about half of all high-growth companies start with $20,000 or less. I got to think about that. And then 1 out of every 10 high-growth companies starts with $1,000 or less. So the rubber really does meet the road for starting a business in making something out of nothing. And the perception is you go out and get millions, you go to a garage, you know, you blow it out the water, and then
Right.
you're in some corporate office in Manhattan. But the truth is, most entrepreneurs start with little, especially successful entrepreneurs, start with little and figure out how to make something out of nothing.